Recently, Netflix has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. No, I'm not talking about how they aired a problematic movie about child dancers, nor am I talking about how they whitewashed Jeffrey Dahmer in their series they made about him, and I'm not even talking about their own most recent murder victim, password sharing. Instead, I'm here to talk about what more and more people are slowly coming to realize, that Netflix's model, and the model of streaming in general, is profoundly anti-art, and it is killing both cinema and television. Let's talk about it. My name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and if you enjoy my videos, enjoy my content, like, comment, subscribe on this video, all that fun stuff. Heart back by popular demand. Netflix is not new to the concept of disrupting things. In the lifetime of their company, they've gone from just giving DVDs out to their subscribers to literally winning multiple Oscars for movies they have bankrolled. It's a pretty big shift to go from copying Blockbuster to making blockbusters. Okay, we don't like puns in today's world, that's fine. But Netflix doesn't even make blockbusters in a traditional sense. I was originally just there to make a pun, but now I'm just here to make a point. Ever since movies were invented and a bunch of French morons thought a real-life train was coming to run them over. Oh no, the train is coming right for us. Why is this German? We have colonized half of Africa, but we have brains the size of macaroons. But since then, the whole name of the game has been getting people to come see movies in a movie theater for a small fee. And then how you actually make money is you charge them $10 for a medium soft drink.
I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10?
You do get free refills though, courtesy of those fancy Coke Freestyle machines that AMC has invested literal millions of dollars to put everywhere. Orange Vanilla Coke Zero, you're no longer in my nightmares. You can be in my stomach instead. So before we get into all the cancellations and television scandals Netflix is currently embroiled in, we have to talk about TV's big brother, the movie industry, and how Netflix is also really hurting that one. Movie theaters have had a string of pretty rough luck in the past several years.
From where you're kneeling must seem like an 18-carat run of bad luck.
Marvel decided to call one of their movies Endgame, which signified to casual viewers, oh, I can stop seeing Marvel movies. Finally, I was really just only going to see them to have something to talk about with my coworker, and now I can stop forever. And then Disney was like, whoa, hold your horses, guys. Don't you want to see, Elementals? Okay, that one's not doing well. How about Ant-Man and the Wasp? Quantumania! Maybe they're wonderful films. I don't know. I didn't see them. And there was also that whole, global pandemic thing, which really didn't help matters either. I'll give you a snapshot of the COVID-era cinematic experience. I went to the movie theater wearing 2 masks to go see a terrible movie where Tom Hanks is reading newspapers to people all across the Great Plains. I still got COVID anyway. The movie was dog shit, and I'm no longer even dating the person I went to go see the movie with, so really, that entire experience was all for nothing. And the sad part, that was the best option we had at the time. Do not fact check me on this. Do not fact check me that there was a better movie playing News of the World whenever that released, because I feel like I'm right. Unsurprisingly, COVID led to a complete box office collapse that frankly the entire industry still has yet to fully recover from. Which brings us to Netflix, and despite flicks literally being in their name, they avoid widespread theatrical releases like I avoid dealing with my gay dating trauma outside of making a few stupid silly little jokes for my YouTube channel. Believe me, seeing News of the World and contracting the novel coronavirus was the least of my issues when it came to that relationship. He's a very nice person. Let's move on. I think this is all exemplified by recent headlines talking about how Daniel Craig, part-time James Bond, part-time Benoit Blanc, full-time alleviation for any lingering daddy issues you may have, but about how Daniel Craig told the Netflix CEO basically to go f*** himself.
I just wanna tell you all, go f*** yourself.
That's not exactly everything he said, but it's pretty close. What he said was that he wanted Glass Onion to get a widespread theatrical release, which makes sense. Generally, movie stars want to be movie stars, not stars of something you're half watching on TV while you're scrolling through TikTok. Granted though, not that being in a movie theater prevents people from being on their phone. Exhibit B why movie theaters are down bad right now. The day I become socially unhinged enough to start confronting people for being on their phones in the theaters, you all aren't ready for that. World ain't ready for that. World's gonna know my name.
And the world will know
that you're on your phone. Okay, I can't sing more of the Newsies. I'm already outing myself too much as a homosexual. But Netflix co-CEO, which apparently is a real title you can have, someone should have informed those quarreling kids on Succession and maybe they could have resolved their differences a bit more amicably.
Co-CEO.
But Craig had asked Sarandos, hey, can we have a theatrical release for Glass Onion? And then Sarandos said, quote, it's not our model, causing Daniel Craig to say that the model is f***ed. Netflix works by having a large library of content to draw people in and keep them there. Or, more accurately, their business model survives by hoping people magically forget they're subscribed to 5 different streaming services and that Netflix can somehow survive any, I'm paying for a lot of subscription services, aren't I, inspired cullings. Planet Fitness, let's just be honest with ourselves, I haven't gone since January. Maybe it's not for me, but Netflix, well, you know, maybe I'll want to watch Seinfeld every now and then. Or for me, Great British Baking Show, that's my crack. Can I say that?
'Cause nobody's needing that crack and cocaine.
But as the Netflix model relates to movies, especially modern movies, their philosophy is that by having these modern movies on their platform, they will draw in new subscriptions or motivate people to maintain the ones they already have, because it's like a flagship cultural entity that they have exclusively on their service. Why would you want someone to pay you just $10 once at a movie theater when instead you can have someone pay you $15 every month, and then they'll either maintain their subscription out of either forgetfulness or, you know, genuine desire to want to stay subscribed. Frankly, for your bottom line, that differentiation matters precisely zero. People like Sarandos don't really care that Glass Onion would have made about $600 million, according to some projections, if it had been given a traditional theatrical run. Because for him, it's more important and it's more financially viable that that movie was driving people to Netflix. And is he wrong? Questions, answers, all that and more in the video. But first, a quick message from our sponsor. Oh, crap. Look at my non-existent watch. It's been 9 hours and I haven't eaten anything yet today. Well, guess it's time to spend $29 on some lukewarm fast food from a delivery app. No. Hey, you? You need the trifactor. Wait, who are you? I'm you, but I'm smarter, a bit better looking, more stylish, you know the deal. Factor is a new meal subscription service operated by HelloFresh, providing you chef-crafted, fresh, never frozen meals directly to your door. They have over 35 options you can choose every single week, including diet-friendly options, vegetarian options, and vegan options, and so much more than that. And their meals are really simple. Just put them in the microwave for 2 minutes, and in 2 minutes, you have got a filling, tasty, and healthy meal ready to eat. Alright, Chef Pat, you won me over. Well, more specifically, the food won me over. I find you personally to be a bit much. Eating food from delivery apps is really easy, but I feel terrible after I end up eating them, which is not great. Factor is cheaper, more convenient, and I actually feel better after I eat the Factor meals. And with no cleanup, I don't have to further antagonize my roommates by not doing the dishes. Believe me, they're already pretty bad when I'm just in my room yelling at 1 a.m. to film these videos. So if you want to give good food a try, get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next 4 boxes by clicking the link below in the description or by scanning the QR code with your phone. Again, that's 50% off your first box and 20% off your next 4 with the link or with the QR code. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Well, I think this is a very crucial fact underpinning this entire video. Netflix makes absolutely bananas revenue. Can we fit one more bananas joke into the video? Rule of 3, folks. Keep watching to find out. And speaking of 3, last quarter, Netflix made nearly $3 billion in net revenue. And this is coming at a time when almost every other streaming service is struggling to make money or barely breaking even. So what is it to them that Glass Onion would have had a $600 million box office haul? Frankly, it's kind of negligible when you consider how much value they place on Glass Onion being available exclusively on their platform.
Are you still a believer in Santa? Because it's
600 million.
marginal, right?
But the other point that Daniel Craig made when he was getting really angry at Ted Sarandos was that of cultural relevance. And while Glass Onion was, I would argue, fairly impactful in the cultural discourse and zeitgeist, that's a fun little SAT word for you, of America, I think he may have a point. Because the vast majority of these Netflix movies exist, get watched, and then are immediately forgotten, consigned to the dustbins of cinematic history. Or because we've gotten rid of all physical media entirely, they're just deleted off a hard drive eventually. We'll get to there later in the video, trust me. It probably comes as no shock to you that mass cultural experiences in America are effectively dead. Shows like Friends, MASH, Seinfeld, and more were viewed by anywhere from 20 to 80 million people per episode at their peak, and the same was true of high-grossing movies. These shows became part of American culture by virtue of their popularity. You could go to a third place and talk to a stranger about Friends and have a pretty decent chance that they would know what you were talking about. Of course, you can't do either of those things now because nothing is that popular, and we've kind of killed a lot of those third places. Now, the only thing we have that comes even somewhat close to these mass cultural experiences probably are Mr. Beast videos in American football. If Mr. Beast's current enterprise of being canceled for being a terrible human being and serving kids suspect energy drinks, if that doesn't work out for him, he should start another football league. He can recruit some of the more controversial players who aren't having a lot of success in the NFL. Like, how about, I got a good one, Deshaun Watson. Oh, okay, maybe not now. It appears Deshaun Watson's Achilles has just exploded like the drippy cheese from Mr. Beast's Moldy Lunchables ripoff. And if none of those jokes did anything for you, well, congratulations, I guess the mass culture is officially and truly dead. But even in the modern day, films are sometimes an exception to this. When a film grosses over $1 billion or any comically large amount of money, it can be safely assumed that many people have seen it, and even if people haven't seen it, they probably have at least somewhat of a broad cultural awareness that it exists. And because Dune 2 grossed almost $1 billion, I can rest easy knowing you probably understand my love of this Javier Bardem clip.
Listen, I gave!
Or, at the very least, we can bond over how Timothée Chalamet absolutely feasted in that role, left no crumbs. So did Austin Butler, so did Zendaya, so did every single person in that movie. That movie was awesome. But these films that release direct to streaming rarely, if ever, have this same type of cultural impact as a movie that becomes a cultural phenomenon. Look at Barbie and Oppenheimer. If Oppenheimer had just went straight to streaming, I can safely say it may still have won Best Picture, but I don't think anyone would have seen it. But let's just think about it for a second. If your friend says, hey, I just watched this really great movie, you should see it, and the options are, I can go see it in a movie theater, a lot more enticing, or I can sign up for Paramount Plus. I know it says it's free, but it's asking me to put in my credit card, and do I really want to accidentally forget and be charged $9.99 for an entire month, and then, well, out of obligation, I feel like I have to watch, I don't know, Celebrity Big Brother? But wait a minute, I'm watching Celebrity Big Brother. Is that Trump-era administration official Omarosa playing the greatest social strategic game ever put on television? I think they're kind of cooking.
Do not question my
I'm
integrity.
going to question everything I want to question.
Don't try to play me. I'm not Nintendo, boo.
And girl, I play Xbox.
Netflix still does occasionally give their films widespread theatrical releases. It's why I was maybe one of 10 people in the entire world to go watch Timothée Chalamet in The King live in theaters. And if you've never heard of that movie, it's probably because they only kept it in theaters for approximately 3 days. And after that brief theatrical run, they probably just put it on a shelf somewhere in the movie section, and because Timothée Chalamet has a completely funk-ass haircut, nobody probably ever watched it. It's not amazing, but it's a pretty good watch. It was great on a big screen, as most movies are. We're also going to talk about that in a second. But these Netflix limited theatrical releases happen because they're necessary to be eligible to win an Oscar.
I got Oscar fever, yes I do.
And just speaking from personal experience, it was a lot better watching Netflix's ultimate Best Picture winning movie, Roma, on a giant screen in a movie theater than it was watching it with my friends who just kept going on their phones and because the movie was in Spanish kept missing crucial plot details. I can come up with a lot of philosophical film student-coded reasons as to why this is damaging to art, and I can come up with some pretty decent practical ones too. Obviously, with the partial exception of Tiger King, which took root when half the country was stuck inside and dealing with mass death all around us, most streaming media products do not have a very profound cultural impact. Obviously, there are exceptions, but I would say this is also particularly true with film. It's why the movie Uglies will probably never ever be thought about again. It went over so poorly that most people didn't even want to watch the reviews of Uglies, although I did one right there, if you're curious, or there, wherever it shows up. But beyond cultural relevance, what about the idea of art for art's sake? There are only a few things that separate us from just most of the animals on this planet. Our ability for complex thought, higher reasoning, our ability to create art, our ability to appreciate beauty, and I've made this joke before, but opposable thumbs! Suck it, monkeys! You can't touch this! Those monkeys wish they were you right now, watching a YouTube video instead of being in a zoo flinging their feces at each other. Okay. That's no way to talk about our cousins. Here's a cultural reference that I think any primates in the audience will appreciate. You were wondering about that third banana reference? Well, there it is. Rule of 3, ladies and gentlemen. And if you were wondering, based on my last video, if I could make a cultural reference more dated than the honey badger, well, there you go as well. But the idea that I'm getting at is that films as an artistic medium are best experienced at a movie theater. And this concept, in an abstract sense, with other artistic mediums, is really not a crazy concept. It's why me showing you this, a picture of a Sunday afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte by Georges Seurat, is not nearly as impressive as if you were to go to Chicago and see the painting in person for yourself. The more Cameron looks, the less he sees. Oh, that is one of my favorite scenes in all of cinematic history. The score is perfect. The framing is perfect. The acting is perfect. I love movies. See, guys, I do enjoy them. I do enjoy pieces of media from time to time, in case anyone was curious. The ideal way to experience a painting is to see that painting in person. And the same is true for something like Mozart. The ideal way to experience one of his compositions would be to watch him perform it. Now, on account of he's been dead for, like 240 years or so, that might be a little bit difficult. Although, a couple weeks ago, Mozart released a new track of music. Researchers found one of his compositions that had previously never been performed, and then performed it. So even 259 years later, Mozart is still finding a way to drop bangers. So there is an ideal way to experience most artistic mediums, and as it relates to cinema, well, I'll just let Nicole Kidman explain it for all of us.
Dazzling images on a huge silver screen. Sound that I can feel. Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
I really don't care for this advertisement, even though the points she's making are largely correct. Like, when I saw the video of that guy saying the speech right along with her in the movie theaters,
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
I, like many of you, might have had an instinctive urge to mock or belittle that person. But then I thought, you know what? Let people enjoy things. If you enjoyed this cringy Nicole Kidman AMC We Make Movies Better video, you're entitled to that. But the point I'm making is that Netflix and streaming in general have moved movies out of the movie theater and into the home. This is a trend that is a double-edged sword and was massively accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And yeah, it's more convenient, but when I'm in a movie theater, I don't have to deal with my upstairs neighbors and their children running around basically more or less constantly from the hours of 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's a school night, guys. You need to go to sleep. So while the transition away from the movie theater into the home does have its benefits as well as its significant drawbacks, Netflix is doing something far more insidious. Killing the concept of a movie itself. Well, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but they're making the film certainly like a panda-level endangered type species. Are pandas an endangered species? Yeah, okay, we're good, guys. Well, I mean, the pandas aren't good. Oh. You're probably familiar with the concept of a limited series or a multi-part docu-series. And if you've watched any of them on a streaming service in the past several years, you've probably at one point or another thought to yourself, this did not need to be 4 hours. This could have easily been 1. And nothing of value would have been lost. Netflix, for a variety of reasons, is constantly promoting these types of shows. Limited series, docu-series, covering a topic, the exact type of thing I'm talking about. Several talking head style interviews of people who may or may not have even been involved directly with whatever we're talking about, a lot of B-roll footage, catchy graphics, and every single part ends on a cliffhanger that just forces you to keep watching. All of a sudden, instead of watching a concise and purposeful 90-minute documentary, you have watched an 8-hour docu-series about a new K-pop group. Even the series that are roughly the same length as a traditional documentary are broken up into 3 chunks. And this is more or less what Netflix wants, because it is responsive to the algorithm. And the algorithm is noticing that people like to watch things for long periods of time, the binge model. Even as TikTok has emerged as essentially killing people's attention spans, every other platform of media that isn't TikTok is getting longer and longer. You might have noticed how I used to do 12-minute videos, and now I like to hone in at around, a tight 25 to 35. And am I doing this because the machines that control YouTube and control my success are subconsciously rewarding me, or am I deep down in the back of my mind emulating gay icon Rachel Ray and her 30-minute meals? Everyone always talks about how the schools are turning the kids gay, which just isn't true, but the real thing that's turning kids gay are a bunch of impressionable young kids watching the Food Network and watching a bunch of mothers absolutely queening out, absolutely divaing, eating, feasting during the impressionable years of our youth. Can we cut that? Can we cut that? I felt like that was a little cringe on my... Oh, you're keeping it in? Thank you, person editing this video.
Big dog, you're welcome.
But at any rate, consumers are watching things longer and longer, sometimes on a second monitor, sometimes to go to sleep, and sometimes just to watch in general. I mean, shout out to all of you. I need all of those people to be successful. The sleepers, I know they're always going to finish my video, but if you're watching me while you're eating, I hope whatever you're eating is very tasty. So even though to Netflix, yes, size does matter, they also want something else. They want as much as possible for as cheap as possible. They have the same content-making philosophy as somebody going to an all-you-can-eat buffet at Golden Corral. If you're not making your content in your apartment with a camera that you spent most of your savings on, the name of the game is churning out as much content as humanly possible as cheaply as possible. For what it's worth, I try to put at least a little bit of care, attention, and thoughtfulness into my cottage industry of complaining. Netflix budgets are generous, but they're not unlimited, and since they're spending a lot of those budgets on giving tens of millions of dollars to Ellen to make terrible stand-up specials, Netflix has to, as an organization, look for other ways to save money. And I love how we have to discuss Netflix like a penny-pinching small business and not a company that has like $9 billion in quarterly revenue, of which almost three's profit, but let's move on. So to save money, that means formats that are cheaper to produce, like a docuseries, are longer and they're being produced cheaper and cheaper. But this also applies for Netflix's other television offerings. You've probably noticed that there are approximately 1 billion reality dating shows on the platform of Netflix. Dating shows, and reality TV programming in general, are among some of the cheapest things you can produce in entertainment. It's amazing how much money you can save when you don't have to pay for actors. You can just cast a bunch of people who just want more Instagram followers and maybe on a marginal level want to find love, but that's secondary. What really annoys me about these shows is when two people genuinely will have a good connection, but they both don't want to move. They're like, well, I like my apartment too much. You need to find love. You need to open your heart up for love. Although, that girl who moved to Texas from LA, that has gone viral recently, so I can understand the hesitation maybe that some of these people might feel.
Tilly says, babe, I want to move back to Texas. Quit your improv troupe and have a goodbye party.
Everyone's bullying her because she mentioned she was in an improv group that she had to quit to go on this move. And I just want to say, as someone who used to be in an improv troupe, can we all please stop doing it? It's really hurting my feelings. Netflix has tried a lot of variations on this genre, so I will give them credit for that. And that even includes Sexy Beasts, a show where people were wearing terrible, insane makeup to go on first dates. Take a look.
Sex Kung Fu. I'm sorry, what? Chinese philosophy with sexual energy meditation. We all have a bit of sex kung fu in us. When I wake up, I gotta make sure I do sex kung fu.
Sex kung fu?
Yeah.
I would just like to undo everything I've been saying for the past however long. That is what is killing television. So this is what the streaming model and Netflix's ultimate drive for profit leads to. Leads to long docu-series that are just about nothing.
Well, what's the show about? It's about nothing.
A deluge of dating shows and filming the entirety of The Witcher in front of a giant green screen. But another part of it is this, and this is what motivated me to make the video in the first place, is how the algorithm determines which shows live and which shows die. I don't know why I had to phrase it like that. Which shows get renewed and which shows get canceled. Algorithm, something that everybody on YouTube loves to complain about, but hopefully for my purposes has brought you to this video. On YouTube, the algorithm mostly exists to connect viewers to videos, and it rewards videos that are clicked on by a better percentage of people and are watched for a longer duration of time. It's not dissimilar to how Netflix works, honestly, which is pretty fucked up to think about, because for me, if I make a video and it doesn't do well, I'll just make another one. And for me, if I make a video and it does well, I'll just make another one. It's just me here. It's pretty simple to do that. But a Netflix show is employing hundreds of people. The stakes are significantly higher. But here's the thing. Using algorithms to determine which shows get renewed and which shows get canceled in the span of about a month is fundamentally antithetical to how television has worked for the past several decades, and I'm obviously not convinced that this is a good thing. Television is unlike most other forms of visual media. It's not like a movie where people are just wanting to see a plot, a good story, see characters go on a journey, but have it all neatly wrapped up and concluded in about 2 hours. Although, of course, now in the modern day, it's not so simple, as every movie needs to have the possibility for a sequel in anywhere from the next 3 to 15 years, depending on when Hollywood runs out of ideas again. People watch TV shows because they enjoy the characters and they enjoy the scenarios that they're in, but it all takes place over a much longer scale of time. In the context of American television, it's why very few of the shows that are considered to be the best or the most iconic are less than 5 seasons, and many of those shows are well above 5 seasons. People watch TV because the pacing is a lot more relaxed, you're getting to know these characters over a longer period of time, in a sense, getting to spend time with them, almost hanging out with them. It's why comfort shows are a bigger thing than comfort movies, in my opinion. But because of this longer time scale, a lot of TV shows are not instantly successful. Some of them need time to find their tone, find their footing, and more importantly, find their audience. I think it's hard to argue with the fact that many of the most iconic and classic shows of all of television were at their weakest in the first season.
Okay, do me. Something stereotypical so I can get it really quick.
Okay, I like your food.
Outback Steakhouse. I'm Australian, mate.
I think a great example of this is Seinfeld, one of the most popular comedies of all time. It wasn't a hit at first. It really did not have significant audience approval or critical approval. One NBC executive called it, quote, "It was probably the lowest testing pilot in the history of NBC." And the lowest tested pilot somehow morphs into one of the most popular shows NBC ever made. In the era of Netflix, if Seinfeld had come out on that platform with poor critical and poor audience reviews, would it have been given a chance for a second season? I'm not so sure it would have. Jerry Seinfeld loves to talk about how the left is ruining comedy and you can't make jokes anymore. But what he should be talking about is if he had come of age today and put Seinfeld on Netflix, he wouldn't even be famous because the show would have been canceled after one season. Netflix makes their renewal decisions in a very secretive way, so it's hard to tell exactly what they're doing and what metrics are being used. But publicly, we do know a few of them. Some of the factors we know definitely play into the decision-making process: how long a show spends in Netflix's hot top 10, how many total hours do people spend watching the product, and how many people start watching the series and how many people ultimately finish. That completion rate number is one of the more important ones. If it's anything less than 50%, most of those shows get canceled. But here's the thing, most of this data is primarily only being looked at in the first 28 days of a show's life following its release on the platform. Netflix is built on the binge model, and it assumes that that's how people actually want to watch its content. So it really prioritizes those first 28 days. So, the next time you see a new show on Netflix, remember, you only have 4 weeks to watch all of it. Do not dare start it and then don't finish it. You might as well not even watch it at all at that point. And if you don't do all of those things, well, kiss your shot of seeing season 2 of that show. Goodbye, forever. It is another show that has been canceled after just 1 season.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir!
And all of this creates a bit of a problem for Netflix, doesn't it? If you've clicked on this video, you're probably aware of Netflix's broad reputation for being a platform where season ones of shows, what would be the correct plural? Let me know in the comments down below. But where season ones of shows go to die, like Lenny in Mice and Men. Just tell me about the rabbits, critically acclaimed Greek mythology show Kaos starring Jeff Goldbloom and Zeus. Just tell me about the rabbits.
Alfalfa for the rabbits.
The rabbits.
And I get the tender rabbit.
But the show of Kaos and their abrupt cancellation is another thing that really motivated me to talk about this issue at all. So let's get into the concept of Kaos. Kaos was a show about Greek mythology starring Jeff Goldblum as Zeus and a variety of other star-studded actors and actresses. It was a good cast. It generally got pretty good reviews from audiences and critics. Like, it wasn't amazing, but it certainly wasn't bad. It was well edited. It was by all accounts, a decent show, a good show. And within 1 month, it was not renewed. The show was immediately canceled. A lot of times Netflix will at least wait for like 2 months before making the decision, but nope, they killed this show instantly. But here's a question I want to ask. Why the fuck would you or anybody else want to watch that first season of Kaos now? Like, what the fuck is the point? For those of you who are unaware, if you're creating a new show, the concept is you need to have like at least 4 seasons of it already outlined, plots, stuff, the whole shebang, and all of that is being set up in that first season of television. And all of those setups are now never going to pay off, and I haven't watched it, but I guarantee that season 1 finale was not intended to be the series finale. And Kaos is one of just so many shows that's been canceled after 1 season on the platform, and if your platform keeps doing it, why would you want to then watch a new show on the platform because, well, it's just going to get canceled, and then because nobody watches it, the show gets canceled anyway, and it creates a bit of a self-fulfilling feedback loop where the only thing that Netflix is greenlighting are a billion seasons of Stranger Things, although finally that show is on its last season. But can you honestly say that shows are given chances to find positive word of mouth, to find their audiences, to find their footing, when they are given 28 days to basically either sink or swim, and in a lot of cases sink?
If there's anything I've learned, it's nobody knows anything except the algorithm.
Like, even if you're doing a traditional episodic release, at the very least, with 8 episodes, you would have had 2 months to build an audience or whatever. Like, these shows are not being set up for success. Kaos even spent some time on Netflix's top 10, but ultimately wasn't enough to save it from cancellation by whatever algorithmically data-driven decisions that play into it at Netflix. Canceling television shows after 1 season is absolutely nothing new, but deciding which TV shows to get canceled the same way TikTok decides which TikToks to show you isn't just damaging to art, it's downright irresponsible. And the last thing I want to say, and perhaps one of the more concerning things I want to bring up, is the increasing likelihood that Netflix is going to be generating lost media, and to some extent it already has. Other companies that own streaming services are now destroying entire movies for tax write-offs, like Coyote vs. Acme and Batgirl, both of which reportedly tested well but were still killed because if you make a movie, you edit it, you film it, you write it, not in that order hopefully, and then you just shelve it forever, you can write off the entire production cost as a tax write-off, and it's financially viable to do that for whatever reason in the terrible system that we live in. While entertainment has always been cutthroat and about the money, I feel like it just keeps getting worse, with entities like Netflix and other companies being increasingly driven for more and more profit, even though a lot of them are pretty profitable already. We could have seen Coyote vs. Acme, it really wouldn't have killed us. But I want to ask you, what do you think Netflix is going to do with all of these orphan shows?
Yeah, an orphan.
A little too old to be an orphan.
No, if you don't have parents, you're an orphan.
Oh, you could be 70 and be an
orphan. You could be 100 and be an orphan.
Oh, you can't be 100 and be an orphan.
How long is it going to remain profitable for them to put on their servers, maintain on their servers, a bunch of season 1s of shows that are never going to see another season? I would argue probably not for that long. Even though physical media is pretty much despised by the modern consumer, for a lot of people back in the day, it was how people kept records of shows when they were no longer airing. If in 20 years you want to have a record of Kaos, I'm very doubtful it'll still be on the Netflix platform. Mostly because Netflix doesn't like keeping anything that was made before 1990 on their platform. It's kind of a joke. And again, as it relates to what Netflix has already done, Netflix originals, which could mean things that are produced directly by Netflix or simply distributed by them, many of them have already been removed from the platform. It's just kind of a jaw-dropping list. And some of these were issues with the rights and the licensing, but the point remains. They're being removed from the platform, maybe to be picked up somewhere else, maybe not, all in the service of Netflix continually chasing profit, regardless of what artistic or creative value may be lost in that process. And look, Netflix is not unique in a lot of the practices that I have outlined in this video. So, did kind of use them as shorthand for a lot of issues that exist in streaming. It is what it is. I do want to just give them their flowers. They don't harass me for using some of their media properties in a fair use transformative criticism way in some of my other videos, which I do appreciate. But with every new show that gets canceled after 1 season, after a month, I think we owe it to ourselves to truly ask and do some introspection about what streaming is doing to television, to cinema, to art. And I know it's a little rich to be talking about the perspective of art coming from a commentary style YouTuber, but believe it or not, I do have higher creative aspirations than making fun of poorly constructed media. I'm writing a novel, by the way, but at the moment, I'm not currently above that, because I'd like to bring your attention to Emily in Paris, which is getting 5 seasons. Emily, you need to leave Paris. You need to stop overstaying that visa, and you need to come home. And you also need to stop reminding me of the absolute worst people who are on Instagram, who are posting 20 different things on their story when they're going on vacation. I recently saw someone do it for New York City. And thanks, Ryan. No, I'm being genuine, because I really needed to see 20 story photos that I have to freaking click through like I've got carpal tunnel syndrome of a city that hasn't been documented at all, really. It's not like New York City is in half of all TV shows that have ever been made. I really needed to see your poorly composed shot of Rockefeller Plaza, not even during Christmas time. It's usually here I'd put an encouraging message, but I am struggling to find one. I don't think there is an easy answer to a lot of the problems that I've been talking about, to be honest with you. To put it bluntly, a lot of our lives now are influenced by data being given to algorithms, by algorithms collecting data. It's all quite encompassing. From literally everything that shows up on our social media feeds, to which shows Netflix is canceling or renewing, to even, your phone listening to you. In case you were curious about that, yeah, your phone does listen to you. Someone told me that an industry professional who was visiting one of my classes in college did, fully just tell us that's what they do. And I will say, maybe this will make you feel better, maybe it won't. Usually it's not in a creepy way. Usually it's just in a how do we sell more products to this guy type way. Like, oh, we hear a lot of arguing. Let's get some ads for therapy in there. This guy could need it. Or, a 6-pack of Bud Light, maybe that could do it. But it seems like our lives and the future of entertainment are being controlled less and less by humanity and more by things that are not humanity. If you want to try to fix things, how about you go take your pals and go see a nice movie? Or, if you want to impact the algorithm that positively affects my life, you can like and comment on this video to let the system know you digged it, or you're digging it. It's not technically over, but it mostly is. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've enjoyed it, please like, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. It gets this video out to more people, and I super duper appreciate it. Thanks again to HelloFresh and Factor for sponsoring this video. And let me know, what did you think in the comments? Am I overblowing this? Am I being a little, maybe too concerned about this? If you let me know that in the comments, maybe I'll be able to sleep a little bit better at night. But I probably won't, because I recently watched Smile 2, and the face of the demon keeps showing up whenever I blink. So yeah, let me know what you think, and remember, I do read every comment, and as always,